Hi friends, we will start today the topic friction from engineering mechanics 10. Definition of the friction. Friction is the force that oppose the relative motion between two surfaces in contact. So whenever two surfaces come in contact, one surface is opposing the motion of the body. And the force which opposes the motion of the body is called as frictional force. See in this figure, you can see that the force rightward is applied. So frictional force on the left side is acting. If the pull is leftward applied, the frictional force will be rightward. So frictional force is always opposite to direction of the motion. In inclined figure also you can see that if the motion is upward, frictional force is downward. If the motion is downward, frictional force is acting upward. So limiting friction force. So limiting friction force is the maximum amount of the static friction that can act between two surfaces before one surface starts to slide over the other. So it is on the verge of breaking the equilibrium where the body will be just start to move. Up to that, the force which opposes the motion is called as frictional force. Now, the law of friction. So here, the frictional force, impending motion is rightward and frictional force is applied leftward. Clear? So the law of friction is that the frictional force is always opposite to the motion of the body. Frictional force is always opposite to the motion of the body. Second one, the frictional force always tangential to the contact surface. Third one, the limiting frictional force is directly proportional to the normal reaction exerted by the surface. F is directly proportional to the normal reaction. So when we equate this, so F is equal to the coefficient of static friction into normal reaction. Static friction is always greater than the dynamic friction. If the body is in rest, the frictional force which is acting on the rest body is always greater than the frictional force which is acting on the moving body. Next is angle of static friction denoted by phi. So for impending motion, the angle between the normal reaction and the resultant reaction between the normal and frictional force is called as angle of static friction. See this figure. Here you can see that the frictional force is leftward, normal reaction is upward, and the resultant reaction will be acting here. And this angle between resultant reaction and normal reaction is called as angle of repose. So this tan phi is equal to mu s. Tan phi is equal to static friction. So if angle of static friction is equal to tan inverse of coefficient of static friction. Next, angle of repose. So it is the minimum angle of an inclined plane with the horizontal. What is that? It's the minimum angle of an inclined plane with the horizontal such that the body on the plane just starts to slide down due to its own weight without applying of any other external force. So किसी भी तरह का एक्सटर्नल फोर्स अप्लाई न करते हुए बॉडी अगर उसके खुद के सेल्फ वेट से मूव डाउन हो रही है और स्लाइड हो रही है, then that angle is called as angle of repose by which it start to slide. It is denoted by theta. Tan theta is equal to mu and tan phi is also mu. So angle of repose and angle of friction will remain same. So you can see that when we pour the salt and salt make a heap, so the angle by which that heap is in stable condition, that angle is called as angle of repose. So here you can see that. Now next is cone of friction. So the cone of friction is an imaginary cone with its apex at a point of contact between two surfaces. So it is an imaginary cone with its apex at the point of contact between two surfaces. The axis of the cone is aligned along the normal force, and the surface of the cone represent all the possible direction in which the static friction acts. So this figure shows you that cone of friction. It's all about the basic concept of the friction. Thank you. Thank you so much.